everybody. It's Billy Nash. Welcome to my podcast, the Luxury Real Estate Podcast with Billy Nash, episode 9. We're rocking and rolling, unscripted and coming at you hard. So it's been a really fun first 30 days of 2023. Hope everybody that's listening is on track to meet their goals and stay productive for the next 11 months. And, you know, the beginning of the year, we talked about something which is starting to come to fruition, which is the normalization of the real estate market. And what I mean by that is we're getting back into what I call reality. The last couple of years, I know we talked about this before, and a lot of people that are listening have read all the headlines. We were absolutely in a real estate frenzy. I don't know if it was probably COVID-driven, safety concerns in major cities, tax reasons, but we have been blockbuster busy, and everybody, Tom, Dick, and Harry, because the barrier of entry is pretty damn easy, became a realtor, right? Which to me is pretty annoying. So for the real estate professionals that are out there that have been in the game for a long time or have totally built a brand for themselves and are rocking and rolling, there's been some good news, which I think there has been a definite shift in active real estate agents becoming inactive throughout the fourth quarter of 2022. And that has just been kind of out in the news last week. 1/3 of active real estate agents in Miami have went inactive. So 1/3 are gone, inactive. So they're not really focusing on the business. So if you're a real estate professional and this is what you do for a living, the fog is starting to clear and we can see visibility again. So this is the time that your brand shines, right? It's healthy for the market. I never want to see somebody go out of business. It's tough, right? But at the end of the day, if you're not dedicated to this business 24 hours, 7 days a week, this is what we do. It's not easy. And sometimes when markets get robust and they get a little disconnect between reality, it looks like it's easy, you know, and then the fog comes in. So clarity is on the horizon. The fog is being lifted. The traffic jam that you might have seen the last 2 years is starting to clear, and the market is correcting itself in a positive way. And that's what I've seen in the first 30 days. We'll talk about things that I've done and things that you should do or things you should think about over the last 30 days of we know where you stand right now going into the second month. But here's another thing that I've noticed. Pricing has not collapsed. Okay. Inventory has increased, but the narrative that's been created in the marketplace when you read are words like, let's say, plunge, catastrophic, crash, collapsed. Well, I haven't seen any of that. What we've seen is a definite a down turn in transactions, but we haven't seen a big downturn in pricing at all. And that goes throughout all of South Florida. And I've talked to luxury agents around the country. You know, there's definitely a decrease in the number of transactions, but there hasn't been this, you know, this apocalypse that you're seeing headlines, right? Stay focused, get the job done. The fog's lifting, and things will work out for you in the long run. And that's the way I always think, right? So just be careful of those scary words. They're meant to get you to drop out. They're meant to scare you. They're meant to scare clients, right? And we're professionals, and we can show real statistics and real value, and that's what creates success, period. Another big trade happened in Palm Beach Island recently, actually a week ago, public records. Tommy Hilfiger right? Tommy Hilfiger busted out a trade, $38 million on the island. There was a bunch of other ones as well. But that was a pretty well-known name that people would know that are listening to the podcast. So things are still happening in South Florida, no matter what you read in the media. So I thought that was interesting. A third of the agents have become inactive in Miami. So what are you doing, or what have you done the first 30 days of 2023? Go back and look. Here's a stat for you. The second week of February is the biggest uptick in fast food around the country and the biggest downtick in gyms, because people give up. They give up, right? Don't give up. Look at today. If you're listening to this and you said, you know what, some of the goals that I set in the beginning of the year, I'm not hitting them. Well, guess what? Make believe today is New Year's, right? And kick right back in. That's the key. Kick right back in. This is not a sprint. It's a marathon in any business that you're in. Sometimes instant gratification takes time. And if you put in the time, good things happen. So what have you done in the last 30 days? Write them down, right? You might not have hit all of them, right? But as long as you're on the path to reaching those goals, like I said, the train will leave the station and good things will happen. The fog is lifting, right? So stay on path, stay in your lane. And you can get overwhelmed in the beginning of the year, right? The beginning of the year is tough because you want to do a million things. Well, guess what? Maybe narrow it down to 3 or 4 good ones to make your business more productive throughout the year. But don't give up. Keep it going. In this business, we get overwhelmed with information. And it's the way you siphon through that is very important, because you can totally get overwhelmed in the beginning of the year. So what have I done in the first 30 days that I said to myself, you know what? I think I want to improve on this. Well, one of the things that I wanted to do is create a new system for a little bit more of a better outreach to the community with things that I'm working on and news of what's happening in the real estate industry, not just social media, right? Because I have a very big presence in social media on Instagram and Facebook, and I'm actually going to start working on my TikTok, because I've been told by many people I need to be on TikTok, including the producer here in the studio. He just looked at me and said, absolutely, Mr. Nash, you need to get on TikTok. So I'm going to work on that. So that was, one of the things I need to do and improve on. But I put a system in place that, I'm going to be sending out more emails, right? I used to send a ton of emails when I was in the financial services industry. Click and write up something that I thought, and it would be very specific to the markets. And I do that all the time. And I kind of lost that over the last 6 or 7 years, where, it kind of just social media took over, and I lost that intimacy of emails. And emails work. They're old school, but guess what? People click and they open them. So I made it a goal to put a new system in place for my business to help more of an outreach with an email system, right? And I haven't had instant gratification, right? It hasn't happened overnight. I'm a nut. So when it comes to like things like this, it's got to be perfect, right? And anybody that's worked with me, clients, they know when I take on your listing, it's got to be perfect. It's got to be executed the proper way. When I put something in the marketplace for someone that's going to read it, it's got to be perfect. So it's taken me like 2 or 3 weeks now to put together the system, because I want it to be perfect. So there wasn't instant gratification during the last 30 days, because I want to make sure that the plan gets executed properly. No matter what you do, make sure your plan gets executed properly. That's the key. So I'm putting that in place. I think that's interesting. Also, what I've done in the last 30 days, and no matter what industry you're in, whether it's luxury real estate or you're an entrepreneur building a technology, whatever it is, I'm a big believer in digital brochures, right? I think digital brochures create visibility. They create wonderful visuals. There is a value add proposition if you do it properly. And I think a visual brochure or visual magazine of 10, 12, 16 pages to showcase your goods and services, to me, is something that I wanted to do in 2023. And there wasn't instant gratification again, because this is going to be sent out to existing loyal clients, potential future loyal clients in the community. But again, there wasn't instant gratification because it takes time, right? It has to be perfect. So when you're putting together strategies and goals for the year and you look back at them in the first 30 days, you may not have seen instant gratification, but as long as you're planting those seeds, take the baby steps towards the process to be successful. And that, to me, is really important. So don't get down on yourself in the first 30 days if you didn't sell that house, or things are getting, it might take you 2 or 3 months, or going out and having, meetings. What I said to myself in the beginning of the year is 2023, I want to have 23 really productive meetings that can turn into future business. And write them down, right? 2023. So that number resonated in my head, 23. When you're done listening to this podcast, this is what I want you to do. Write down 23 people that you want to meet with in the next 6 months that can turn into a long life lasting relationship that potentially maybe can ring the bell, right? 23 of them. And it might take you 6 months. Some people listening could say, oh, I can meet 23 people in the next 2 days. Well, guess what? I'm talking about real, sincere meetings. Cup of coffee, lunch, a dinner, whatever. 23. Write down 23 people that you want to sit down with in the next 6 months. And I bet you next year we'll have the same conversation, and half of those 23 people will be fully engaged with you about doing something potentially in the real estate world. It's how it works. So instant gratification. My instant gratification is knowing that I can set these goals, right? You set them, right? That's instant gratification because your mind is saying, I'm setting these goals. There's my instant gratification. I did it, right? The first part of it's done, but it might take longer to bear fruit. But patience is the key in this business. And patience is key in lots of businesses, right? No matter what you do. All of the entrepreneurs that are listening to this podcast, right? You have to be patient. When you become the jack of all trades overnight, you become the jack of nothing, right? So take the time and be patient and recalibrate or reset your goals after 30 days if you think they're not coming to fruition, right? It's hard. So the first 30 days, look back at what you've done. What can you improve on? What's starting to happen for you? That is what's critical and what's key. Don't get down on yourself, right? Listen, this business is about being disappointed, right? I come from a financial industry for 22 years. It was the business of no, right? Asking people for their money for 22 years, right? It always started with no. And guess what? You know what I used to say? No is halfway to yes. And I never forgot that, right? So rejection in the first 30 days of something that you're trying to work on, goals, people you're trying to reach out to, whatever. Guess what? You need some thick skin in this business. And if you don't have it, you're going to be in that 1/3 that just dropped out, right? That's the key. So looking back on the last 30 days, what have you done? What have you accomplished? Where are you going for the rest of the year, right? It's a long year. We got 11 months to go, which is awesome, right? Now, if you're in month 11 and you set these goals 11 months ago and you're not seeing anything, probably makes sense to quit, right? Something's wrong, right? There's a spark plug missing from the engine. Speaking of engines, this week was the Barrett-Jackson car auction, and people that know me personally know that I'm a good friend of Craig Jackson and Carolyn Jackson. They are the best, and Craig is probably the most informed collector car guru in the world. You want to talk cars? I mean, you talk to Craig. I'm going to pitch him real hard to come on to be a guest on the show before the Palm Beach show here for Barrett-Jackson. But the reason why I'm talking about this is there's a direct correlation, right, between collector cars and the real estate industry and the strength of luxury products. So they set all-time attendance records in the last 7 days, all-time records on sales in the auction. And so it doesn't look like a collapse to me. It looks like there's some real strength in the economy. And the Fed's going to meet again this week. We'll wrap it up with a little news. Fed's going to meet again to potentially raise interest rates, which they probably will. And the market is betting, the stock market's betting that the Fed is going to be over-raising. They're done raising interest rates. I think that's a tough bet. I said this in the fourth quarter. We may see a little pause, but the underlying strength in the economy is there. Look at GDP numbers that came out, right? So I just don't see this big, deep recession. There's pockets in the economy that are strong, and one of them is real estate. So stick to your guns, stick to your brand, stick to your goals, and look back on the last 30 days and see what kind of adjustments you need to make to continue to hit on all cylinders, right? And don't forget, if you can take anything from this podcast today, right, one tool to help you with your business, because it helps me with mine, you know, with hundreds of millions of dollars in sales and blah, blah, blah. You think I go on autopilot? Absolutely not. Business is fun. It's exciting. Getting a new listing is fun. Closing a new deal is fun. Creating a new loyal, making it, creating a new social media post. It's fun, right? It's all fun. It's great. And at the end of the day, it's satisfaction to me. So if there's one thing you could take from this podcast is that when you're done driving or wherever you're listening to this, do the 2023 meeting list. 23 people that you want to sit in front of, even if it's a mentor, a top producer in your company, whatever it is, a new potential client, a trust and estates attorney that has clients that might, be a valuable add to your service. Whatever it is, write that list down. Write those 23 people down and make it your mission over the next 6 months to get in front of them. And I promise you, it will bear fruit and make it sincere, right? Don't just meet with someone to meet with them. I'm sincere. I really appreciate the time that this person is staying with, is spending with me, right? It's super important. And again, being a people person, a relationship-driven real estate agent, it's in my bloodstream, right? That's what I do. So I think we'll end it there. Good luck on your list of 23. Maybe you've already had 23, which is awesome. Congratulations. And good luck next week. We're going to have an awesome guest. We're going to talk about the insurance industry. I know that the insurance industry sounds kind of boring, but there's lots of stuff happening in the insurance industry. Hurricanes, fires, and people that are buying, luxury product want to understand what's happening and the changes in the insurance industry. So I'm going to have a special guest that knows this stuff cold, and it'll be great. I'm looking forward to it. So thank you for listening to this podcast. I really appreciate the time that you've spent with me. Share it with your friends. I appreciate the downloads. Listen to it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. I'm Billy Nash, and I appreciate the time coming at you unscripted and hard. I love you, and we'll talk to you next week. Thank you.